News Talk 1340 KROC-AM. Good morning. I'm Andy Brownell, Rochester today. It's a Monday morning, first Monday of the month. Dick Zeitler and AutoTech 101 on the air. Good morning, Dick.
Morning.
282-1234 is the number if you have a question for our automotive expert who comes in on a regular basis and takes calls from our listeners about their vehicles and problems with their vehicles, and those who do not have problems with their vehicles. I'm extraordinarily jealous.
I got all kinds of problems now. Would they please give me daylight back during the night?
Yeah. Today, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it'll be dark.
You don't see people, you don't see house numbers, you don't see anything like that.
No.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's not the switchover is not my favorite time of the year. You
No.
get that extra hour of sleep, but it doesn't
and it
seem
feels
worth
kind
it.
of funny. Like, I remember when you were in your house and your dad and your brother was going deer hunting, and it felt dark outside, and they were going very early in the morning. When they get home, it's dark at night, and they may have a deer, they may not, but there's an eerie feeling right about in this area.
Because it's not winter yet.
Yeah.
Do it every year.
Yep.
And the other thing I noticed is the older you get, when the whole fallback thing meant a lot more because you'd get that hour of sleep, and now you wake up anyway.
Yeah.
It's just an hour earlier.
I was wondering how they do it on the night shift. Did they work an extra hour?
Yeah, well, somebody gets messed up with that. I imagine that that's the case. 282-1234. We're getting ready for winter and all that jazz with our vehicles, and always one of the hardest parts of the year for the internal combustion engine is that cold, nasty weather. But, Dick, I'm going to remind our listeners that you have told me that the reason in the past is that the reason we're going to end up having trouble in the winter is because of what happened in the summertime.
Yep.
It's the heat.
The heat takes a lot of life out of our car and the battery and stuff like that.
And it finally catches up to us when it gets
catch up. Yep. They ain't the cranking power inside of that battery isn't there. It just isn't there. And they just wear down, and you get about 4 years on a battery, and that's about it. I don't care. It may have 5. You may have a battery that lasts 7 years. But you get 4 years on a battery, like I did last year, I replaced mine. And mine's not out in the element. Mine is actually inside the car with me in the back in my little HHR.
Oh,
and a lot of them are hidden now. A lot of the batteries are hidden. You got to go find them. They're underneath the seats or something like that in the back, but it's inside. It's not in the elements. So they're kind of insulated from the outside weather.
A little
inside
bit.
there, yeah. And they last longer, but still, you get 4 years on a battery, you're doing pretty good. And if you want that car and you rely on that car, it's best to replace it.
So borrowed time after 4 years.
Yep.
I better look at that.
You don't even know how much.
I don't know.
You don't know how old that battery is in that new van.
And the one out of the other van I could pull up, but I know that one's 4 years old. So I'm looking at a battery too, is what you're telling me.
Yep.
So you brought up the batteries under the seat business.
Yeah.
And that's not that new of a thing. They started that in the 2000s.
Yeah, and they started that way back in the European cars.
Why? Just to make it a hassle for everybody?
Yeah, just to make it a hassle. Well, and then it has a tendency not to corrode as much back in the back. I mean, they have, if you can't see them, who cares? And then you find out, there's a big corrosion problem in the back of my car.
Well, yeah.
And the battery's going to fall out the floorboard. But they seem not to have that big of an acid around them problem. And some of them's got a hose that comes out of the battery and takes the acid out the bottom of the car. Takes the fumes and that stuff around the battery, the aura around there, and it goes out the bottom of the car. Some don't even use that hose that comes with the new battery or reattach the hose when they put a replacement battery in. Should be put back on.
Because if you have a venting battery in a closed situation, that's not good for you.
Yeah, yep. It's not good.
It's
going to have
good
fumes. No, it's going to eat up anything that it can eat up, even the metal parts and stuff like that. And we talked about that on your Ford van just a few minutes ago, about corrosion.
Yeah. not the new one, the other one. 282-1234. That body lasted 20-some years. So.
Yeah, but it's not the body. You were talking about, on your new one, you had that EGR valve problem.
We can talk about that in a little bit, but we do have a caller. Good morning. You're on KROC.
I had a low beam bulb burn out in my car, so I replaced it.
Yep.
And within, it was still daylight. Within a few hours, the replacement low beam had burned out. And I was wondering if that was a sign of a weak bulb or an electrical problem in that part of the car.
I'm very good with this one.
Yes, because you've done this. I know that.
I've done this.
I'm over here showing you my fingertips.
I went and was working for a company that I brought battery or bulbs for my own, but you don't touch the bulb. One is you don't touch the bulb with your hand if it's a halogen bulb and it's just a socket with a bulb on it. Don't put your fingers on that bulb because you will hold the heat inside that bulb, and that bulb will burn out faster. And it has a tendency to do that. Or maybe there was a weak bulb or stuff like that. I have had put bulbs in from this one company, and here they burned out within 3 months, burned out within 6 months, and they say they guarantee a lifetime. They guaranteed for a year or something like that, and they replace them. Stuff like that's being said to you. I went right back to the factory, got the bulbs, and I'm working on probably about this. I'm going to knock on wood about the 4th year, and I haven't replaced a bulb since.
Okay,
so I went back to the dealership.
Not to touch the base or the bulb. I handled it only by the base. Taurus bulb.
Yep.
So, but that fast too. That probably is a defective bulb.
It's a defective bulb, and they make them over in someplace not in the United States. And the element and the wiring they're using is very cheaply made. And when you go over like railroad tracks, bumps, and things like that filament, it sits there and flexes. And the more it flexes, it's just like taking a coat hanger and bending it back and forth. It's going to break. And that's what happens. And they break very soon. And they're really weak filament inside of that bulb.
So if a person were to pull out this bulb and say, I only had this in my car for 3 hours, will they give you credit?
You should be able to get credit and replacement on it.
Is there a performance difference like that between the bulbs? Some of them ran $10, and the same bulb you could pay up to $30 a piece for.
Yep. There's a difference in performance that way. And what I'm saying is I went over to the dealership and brought them for my HHR. So you know what dealership I went for? It's a Chevy dealer. So basically, I went right over there, and I got at least a good 3 years now on it, going on 4.
How much more do you pay?
And I replaced both sides twice before that.
How much more do you pay at the dealership than you would at?
I think I paid around $25 for the ones at the dealership.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your call. 282-1234. It's AutoTech 101 with Dick Zeitler. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Yeah. Speaking of bulbs, like on a Suburban, these running lights on a Suburban.
Yep. The daytime running lights.
Yeah, you drive down the road, and about every other one, including mine, one or the other is always out. And I replaced one, and it didn't last at all.
Yep.
And I don't remember if the one I replaced went out, but anyway, what's the problem there with these things? I noticed it on Chevy pickups and on Suburban.
And basically, we go back to the same thing. Did you try to go to the dealership and buy the bulb?
No.
And I would say that would probably be the thing, because when we buy these bulbs don't last. We aren't getting them from this country. We're getting them from another country. And basically, they're not tested well tested to be in the same situation like we got. And the ones that's made, it could even say the same country that the one that's made from the parts department. But the ones from the dealership seem to be the ones that last, and I've had the problem time and time again. Now, the other thing you could have is the socket. You got to look at the socket. You got to see if it's not corroded or stuff like that, or moisture got into the light or something in that order to cause this to burn out. Because if there's moisture sitting in the light, it's going to splash onto that bulb, and the minute that bulb gets hit by moisture, it's going to rapidly cool it and break it. And it's going to turn, and then the bulbs will turn to a gray or a filmy inside of them when they are in that condition, like condensation or something.
Is that only the halogen bulbs?
Yeah, that's the halogen bulbs. You can get an incandescent bulb doing the same thing.
Okay.
So you don't think it's an inherent design problem on these things? You're saying you think it's the bulb?
I'm still think it's the bulb. I don't think it's a design problem on them. And I know I see the same thing you're seeing, that every once in a while you have one behind you or in front of you, and one or the other the lights out. And,
always,
Always.
Yeah, it seems to be always. But as far as people don't check them daytime running lights as much as they check their regular headlights, and when you turn headlights on, they don't use them for sight, and so that you see a lot of them because people don't, see that unless somebody tells them you got a headlight out or a daytime running light out.
Maybe I shouldn't tell you this. I'm driving right now, and I just met a Suburban, and the left. The driver's side running light was out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
right,
thanks for the call.
Thank you.
We have to take a break, but when you're talking about running lights,
Yep.
I always think of running lights as the small bulb that was almost always alongside your turn signal bulb. You're talking about
these are down low on the GM trucks. They are down low, and they're a separate bulb from the headlight bulbs up above.
but they're brighter than what
They're bright with a bulb, but they turn on the minute you turn your ignition switch on.
They're on all the time.
They're on all the time.
Oh.
So they got more running and more shaking and under conditions more than what your headlights are under.
Yeah.
Because they on all the time until you turn your headlights on and then they're off.
Okay.
But there's another story to that. If you got a minute, there's another story to that. The vans years ago didn't use the bright light; they used the amber lights up front.
Yeah.
And my brother got picked up for having no lights on during the rain. And that's a light on during the rain, isn't it? The amber lights on the front of a Venture van.
I thought when the rule was when the windshield wipers are running, you're supposed to have your headlights on.
You're supposed to have your headlights on. But there was a little bit mist or whatever in the air, and the cop picked him up for not having his lights on. And he says, well, my daytime running lights are on. And he says, no, they're amber. They're amber lights.
Well, there's a lesson learned right there.
And then GM changed it.
To a white bulb after.
To a white bulb.
Okay. I don't know if that counts either, but okay, 49. We need a state trooper to call us up and straighten us out on that. 282-1234 is the number. We'll be back with more with Dick Zeitler and AutoTech 101 right after this break. News Talk 1340 KROC-AM. Good morning. I'm Andy Brownell with Dick Zeitler, and it's AutoTech 101. 282-1234 is the number to call if you have a question for Dick about your vehicle. We'll try to get it answered for you. We'll be here until 11 o'clock this morning. We'll have a news break in just a moment, but we have a caller for us, Tom. What am I saying, Dick? Tom, Dick, Harry, whatever, right?
Don't do that.
That's your brothers.
That's my brothers.
Good morning. You're on with Dick Zeitler.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah. Morning.
2005 Buick. Last year I had the radiator flushed.
You still have this car?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gone now.
Okay.
Where I'm headed was I got the radiator flushed, and when it was done, the guy said, I put green stuff in, and we've had too much trouble with the other the other stuff. And, well, then I look on the Internet, and they talk about, well, the newer vehicles, you got to watch what you put in the radiator because so much of that stuff is plastic, and if you have an incompatible stuff, the damage could be done. So where I'm headed is, should I be doing business with this guy from now on?
Well, as far as I don't think so.
Okay.
You should put in what the factory come with. I don't care what they say. If you see corrosion around your cooling system or stuff like that, that means you got a leak to the atmosphere. Okay. And if that means that they see a lot of corrosion with the new stuff, but that's what happened is you got a leak to the atmosphere, and that's may need to be serviced, and that area may need to be checked for corrosion and leakage on that fitting. But as far as using the old stuff and the new stuff, I had that problem years ago. I had that problem is in a Dodge pickup. They put the green stuff where the ethylene glycol and the newer antifreeze is supposed to be, and pipes on the heater core corroded off.
Wow.
It was aluminum pipes coming out of the heater core. Now, the heater core is actually just above the accelerator pedal in a Dodge Dakota pickup.
It's dripping.
It's just above the accelerator pedal. What it is about 7 layers of dash to get to it. And it's a big job to get the heater core out of that pickup. And the guy says all I did was put the green stuff in. It wasn't even in there 6-7 months, and it ate. And I still have pictures on one of my computers that show me that condition. I don't have them on there anymore. I don't have the computer plugged in. But as far as you could still see it, and it ate him off pretty good. I mean, right at the firewall.
So when this other person said, "Oh, we've had trouble with the orange stuff,"
yeah,
what's he talking about there?
Well, that's where he sees the corrosion. He starts to see the corrosion on the cap and the corrosion on stuff. The corrosion will actually build up on the newer stuff, the orange stuff.
Okay.
It actually, and what that is that's a leak to atmosphere. That means that connection's leaking. And the minute it reaches atmosphere, it has a tendency to get a white powdery substance around the connection or on the radiator.
So
cap.
you have a radiator cap that's not sealed up properly,
you
or a hose
change the
connection?
fluid to new, and then you put the new radiator cap on and fix the connection you're at. And it probably ate right into the aluminum housing that it's attached, the hose is attached to, like the aluminum castings and stuff like that. And if it's a leak to atmosphere, that's why it's...
So the green stuff will corrode inside
It will.
without the atmosphere.
It will corrode the stuff that the other stuff is protecting.
Okay.
So that means the tubes and stuff like that, the aluminum parts, like the radiator and everything. Yeah.
So don't mess with it.
Don't mess with it. It's more the green stuff is for brass.
Okay. Sounds like
iron.
It was a good thing I didn't sell that to you then.
yeah. Right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Bye. If you had an old system that had the green stuff, if you put the orange stuff in it, what does that do?
Don't even do that. But it may sludge up. It may clog places where you don't want it to clog
so bad.
and block things. I wouldn't even do that.
No, that's why I was asking.
Stay with what the manufacturer recommends.
And you got to. Are most of the new ones now orange?
Most of them. Most of them are orange.
Once
And some of them come in and they say they want the blue stuff. And they want the blue stuff. Yeah, and the guy walks over and picks up a bottle of windshield washer. That's what he's putting in his radiator.
We have another caller before the news break. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a 3.5-year-old vehicle, and I've been told the catalytic converter is bad. Is that unusual to go that fast? I've never had a problem with one.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
That should be under warranty, though, by the way.
It should be
I'm
under
about
warranty.
2,000 miles outside of the warranty.
No.
Check on this.
100,000 miles. That's the emissions warranty.
Yeah.
See, they're telling me it's 80,000, and I have 82,000 on it.
But that's an emissions warranty.
Right.
That's 100,000 miles. Do you have a book?
I looked it up. It is the emissions. They say is 5 years or 80,000.
Wow.
5 years or 80. They changed that then.
Because it used to be 7 years.
It used to be 100.
Of course,
7 years,
never
100.
goes to our benefit with those changes, do they?
Yeah. But as far as anytime they see bad in and out, that's why you have 4 oxygen sensors on your car now. We used to only deal with 1 oxygen sensor, and that reads the content of the fuel base going out the tailpipe. And the hydrocarbons, carbon monoxide, that little oxygen sensor. And then actually the oxygen sensor tells the computer either we rich, it leans it out, or either we lean and it richens it. See, that's what an oxygen sensor is.
Right.
Well, all of a sudden they says, hey, this could be used for another reason. Let's put one on the back side of the catalytic converter, 2 on the front side, or 2 on the back side and 2 on the front side. Let's put 4 of them on. They're only $101 a piece. But what it's reading is when you get your scanner on there, it reads a reading that there is hydrocarbons getting out the back of the converter. Right away, they blame the tailpipe, or the catalytic converter. Right away, they blame it. And they've replaced them time and time and time
Even though
again.
it might not be.
When they come out,
$1,400.
yeah, when they come out with them multi-oxygen sensor deals, they were replacing them left and right. And I says, I never replaced one in my life, hardly, unless the thing broke up inside and got hot and got plugged. That's the only reason I ever replaced them. And while they see these little blips on this scanner, all of a sudden your catalytic converter's no good.
Even though it might not be.
Yeah, it might not
It
be.
just might be a wrong mixture.
It might not be, but
How do you tell
you
the-
got a
how do they
service
tell?
engine. You got a service engine light coming on,
Yep,
right?
the
And that's
light
how
came
they're
on.
going to try to get rid of it. I have seen them replace the catalytic converters, and the light still came on,
Because it's the sensor.
and it may be a sensor.
So are they able to tell through the codes whether it's the sensor or the converter?
Not really. It's just a suggested repair off them scanners. Mostly it's a lead to where you go. It's not a direct lead to say replacement of parts.
I had a
So
catalytic.
it's a lead to where to go, and that's where they have their expertise of the last few cars they did before yours. Says we replaced the sensor, everything's okay. Well, maybe the customer got mad and says I'm never going back there again.
Oh,
And if
so you
they
don't
never
know.
show back, They never show back. They says, "Oh, I fixed it."
Yeah, you fixed it.
So if this is coming out of my pocket, not the warranty, should I ask them to replace the sensor?
Yeah, I would definitely have a tendency to replace the sensor with them, and that should be probably in the repair.
But
at least the rear ones. But what happens is the activity of the sensor goes down. Usually, if you look at the front ones, the oxygen sensor is constantly, crazily going up and down from registering, and you can see that on the scanner. The back ones are sitting back there wonder when I get my job. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because they don't see anything back there.
So should
then
I
all of a sudden they see something back there.
The rear sensors and see what happens?
You can. That's a $200 replacement
versus a $1,400.
Well, then $1,400. You can replace them.
I think
they'll
show that. Then I know the catalytic converter is bad.
Yep.
Because you're saying you've seen where it's not necessarily the catalytic converter giving me this.
Right. It may be a sensor, or it may be a sensor compared to the front to the back ones. You may. I even replaced all 4 sensors before I replaced the catalytic converter.
Oh, is there anything I did wrong for this? Is this something I drive weird?
Yeah, you drive too much city traffic.
That's true.
You got to get on that gas pedal and burn that carbon out of it. That's what we used to say.
Yeah,
shake the carbon out.
There's still something to that.
Well, maybe you got to heat it up. You know, a lot of our problems is just going to the office and back home.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't go out at least once a week out onto the highway, I used to tell the young ladies that drive, go around Circle Drive. Go around West Circle Drive to East Circle Drive and come back into your house. Don't just go from one point A to point B. He says, well, that's wasting gas. I said, no, it may be
so you
saving
really don't
money.
Have to hit the highway for an hour or something.
No, you got to get it warmed up. You got to get it warmed up, and it only takes at least a couple of miles to warm up a catalytic converter at 55 miles to 60 miles an hour, and I know we don't drive that.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll see if they can replace the sensors and see how that goes next.
Yeah, and it's just a suggestion, as far as don't make them mad at you, but
no.
Well,
I just as soon
save a little money somehow.
Yeah, especially just being out of warranty like that.
How old is this vehicle again?
It's 2011.
2011. Oh.
See, now I've had a catalytic converter go bad.
Yep.
And
and I replaced it.
Yeah.
How'd you know?
Because
you couldn't get up a hill.
You would be amazed how bad your performance gets. And
Really?
And how quickly.
It's still running fine. I mean, that was my next question.
Yeah.
It's running fine. Do I really need to do anything?
See, they're running off what your light come on, and you went in to see if it's serviced, and then they running off the readings on the scanner.
Right.
Telling them what to do.
The car is running fine.
And it's a good sale to sell $1,500.
Stainless steel, yeah.
Oh,
no, when it goes bad, you will, without any doubt, know how bad it is because you will not. I couldn't go 55 miles an hour in the car.
Really?
No. Yeah, it
wouldn't go. That's the question.
That's when they
plug. That I have to fix it right away?
Not necessarily, unless you can just put a piece of tape over the light.
Stare at that light for a while.
Is there some wire I can cut?
No.
It does kind of drive you crazy after a while.
That better come on. That better come on when you go to trade off for your new car.
Yeah.
Because you have to fix it if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Really?
To get any money out of it. Yeah.
I suppose. Well, that's very helpful. I'm going to see if the rear sensors go that route. Thank you so
much.
Thank
you.
Give us a call back.
Thank you.
Sometime let us know how it works. Thanks.
Bye.
All right, Kim David's waiting in the news center.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That was a good call. We'll help that guy out, I think. 49 degrees downtown Rochester. Kim David's in this news center, and he's coming up next. News Talk 1340 KROC-AM. I'm Andy Brownell. It's Rochester Today on a Monday morning with Dick Zeitler, AutoTech 101. Talking about your cars, your trucks,
your
tools. We're going to have a posting on KROC-AM.com with a couple old-time tools, and maybe somebody can recognize them. We'll throw that out there.
And comment on
Facebook.
And see if, and ask yourself if you can still use these on the newer vehicles. And if you have any questions after seeing that, next time I'm on, kind of make a mental note to call in. I will tell you that if you can or can't use them.
Well, you can just watch for it on Facebook, too, Dick, and comment on there as well.
I can do that, too.
You can like us on Facebook, and you'll find all that stuff. We do have a call. Good morning. You're on KROC with Dick Zeitler.
Hello.
Morning.
Dick, two of the most important gauges that seem to be missing off the vehicles that I put on mine all the time is transmission temperature gauge and the vacuum gauge.
Yep.
And a vacuum gauge is wonderful because it'll tell you about that catalytic converter instantaneously.
Yep, it will.
And and it's wonderful to drive by because the more vacuum, the more money you're saving.
Yep. I got a little gauge on my electric car telling me when I'm really using the juice, and then I'm not using the juice, and then it tells me when it's charging when I let off the accelerator pedal and see it charging, and if I hit the brakes, it really charges.
So you got a ammeter on yours?
No, I got an electric car that's my I use at work.
Oh, okay.
And basically, I watch the gauges all the time, and it's got a little battery and everything else. They got gauges all over the place. On the transmission gauge you mentioned, if you're pulling a lot of stuff, yes, put that transmission gauge on there. Just for normal wear and tear, that temperature gauge and stuff like that, you're pretty well good to go without it. But if you have a transmission, if you're pulling trailers and stuff, yes, that transmission gauge is
one more little thing. All these kids that are throwing all the fancy radios and so on and so forth, vehicles. Yeah. You mess with that electric system, you're asking for nothing but grief.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yep.
Hey, nice hearing you.
Yeah.
See you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call.
Bye.
282-1234. The vacuum gauge. I remember in the old days we had the vacuum gauge, and it would be your economy gauge. They would often call
basically,
that.
Or Chrysler had out in the 70s, late 70s, Chrysler had a light out on the hood, and if it grows bright, you're using a lot of gas, and if it doesn't light up, you're going econo. You're not using the gas. We used to wanted to see if we could make that glow in a
back in the 70s.
Back in the 70s, we wanted to see that glow all the time.
We had,
because gas was down.
And plus you had those big carburetors and big block engines back then. Yeah. Okay, but I get that part of it, and I understand how that works with the vacuum connection, but the catalytic converter part, how does that...
As far as the minute you hit the gas, it goes, instead of going down, you can see the pressure changes from your exhaust, and it goes flat to zero. So if you got zero vacuum when you go to accelerate, you ain't going to draw any gas out of the carburetor or in the injection. Everything's backed up, plugged.
Sure.
You want to see a rise in that vacuum gauge to see if you got, to draw the gas to get you up the hill. But the minute you hit the accelerator pedal and that baby falls to zero, you got to plug the exhaust. Something's plugged.
But that's going to be obvious to you anyway.
Yeah, that's going to be obvious to you anyway, but you would see it. But we used to use the vacuum gauge to see that. That fall.
Okay.
Because you could run out of gas and have the same feelings of a plugged exhaust system. Your secondaries in your carburetor or your primaries in your carburetor is plugged up with charcoal, because we used to have the charcoal canister, remember, over in the fender?
Yeah.
And any place in the car to take the gas fumes for we can live with the car in our house. That's what the charcoal canister was for. Well, once in a while, the diaphragm would break in there, and it has a suction hose on top of it. Used to suck the charcoal right up into the carburetor and sit in the carburetor bowl because they had a vent on the carburetor.
And that would plug it up.
And it would plug up the primary jets and the secondary jets, and away you go. You don't have any gas. It feels just like a plugged exhaust system.
Huh. Okay.
So you could have the same thing. But you wouldn't see the gauge. You see the draw and everything, but you wouldn't see the same fluctuation in the vacuum.
All right. You mentioned the charcoal canisters. I'm kind of interested in what you had to say. So is that an invention? I always thought that was an emission control thing, but that was more... Okay.
But it's to store the gas fumes from the gas tank from the changing temperatures inside your garage. So basically it would vent to that charcoal canister. Years ago it used to just vent to the outside, and then when you walked in your garage, remember how gassy it used to smell?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Love that smell.
I love that smell. But anyway, that's what they don't want inside your garage.
No.
And the car actually cannot put out, same thing as your check engine light coming for your gas cap that's not tight enough. They want you to live in that house, and that car shouldn't put out any more emissions than a Christmas tree.
I get that, but what I'm getting at is that this was an invention of the attached garage on the home, isn't it? Because when you had the detached garage, you didn't care.
Yeah, you didn't care.
They leaked like crazy anyway.
Yeah, and they smell all the carburetors anyway.
Right. So then once we started building homes with these attached garages, everybody started complaining about smelling gas. Yep. So then they came up with this gizmo to do with this.
Other than the canister, when we're back in the carburetor days, where else was the charcoal? Remember the days they had that ring in the air cleaner? Charcoal ring in the air cleaner?
No, I don't.
Then, they had the days where the ring was in the air cleaner, and then the filter was on the outside of that ring.
No, okay, I never had one that old.
They had a charcoal deal, and that was in the 70s, 60s and 70s they had that. 70s more or less when they.
Okay, see my 66.
But that's another one where the carburetor was leaking fumes out of the air cleaner.
Well, sure would.
And what would be the first thing you young kids would do? Take that air cleaner off, throw that one away, and put this little round donut on it, a filter, and basically you got back smelling carburetor fumes. But they did have a charcoal canister
we would
charcoal ring.
We would flip the lid on air cleaner.
Oh, yeah, we did that too.
So it would sound better.
Yeah.
That was the first thing we did.
Yeah, you could hear that carburetor.
My dad would yell at me. You quit flipping that thing over. Why do you do that anyway? It's waste of time, Because, Dad, when you hit the gas real hard, it sounds...
And Andy didn't know that snorkel tube with that little tube that come off your exhaust manifold was supposed to be early fuel evaporation, or it was supposed to help you warm up for didn't have to sit there and warm the car up to get going.
What do you think my dad yelled at me about?
It would hesitate going down the highway because it didn't have that warm air off the manifold.
But, Dad, it sounds cool.
Yeah.
282
just drill the hole in the exhaust.
3, 4 is
drill the hole in that muffler.
We didn't do that. No, I had to get my own vehicles to put the fancier mufflers on. The check engine lights. You were talking, the previous caller that we had before the news break about the catalytic converter and the meaning of these check engine lights and how serious
how
we
accurate they are.
Well, plus how serious we have to take them. I mean, I know folks that when the check engine light comes on, they almost get into a panic about it. Without any, we have a caller. We'll talk about that after this. Good morning. You're on KROC. Thanks for calling in.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a 1950 Ford with the Chevrolet motor in it, but I've got an aluminum radiator. I heard your discussion about antifreeze.
Yep.
What do you think I should have, the red or the old?
I would still put the old stuff in because your seals and that stuff that's with that unit. And they recommend, in fact, the manufacturer of that aluminum radiator ought to recommend what you put in it. But as far as I've seen, the old stuff work just fine for them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep,
for the,
and I don't think it's the heat. It's the heat we build up, that really causes the damage.
Okay.
But
I've been changing it every year, so
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But just put the old stuff in.
Thanks for the help. Then.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
So the newer cars generate a lot more heat. So
yeah, a lot more heat, and we leaning them out more and working them under the conditions and stuff. And the seals in them are different, made of different materials and stuff. Yeah, it doesn't fit each other.
Okay, we have another call, Dick. Good morning. You're on with Dick Zeitler, AutoTech 101.
I'm back again.
Okay,
drilling holes in the muffler. I always used to do that in the bottom just to get the
water out.
Yeah.
Get the moisture out. Yeah, I know what you mean. And how come in my 1988 Buick Riviera I never replaced the muffler yet, and it's got about 180,000 miles on it?
Is that hole, huh?
Yeah, it's the hole in the bottom of the muffler.
Did they come with drain holes?
Yeah, they come with drain holes. But the aftermarket mufflers don't because they got that another pack inside of them, charcoal pack, to take care of that extra moisture and wrap differently. So if you buy a Walker muffler, you pay a good price, but basically what you're trying to do is get that same mileage you got out of the first exhaust system. You won't do it.
Okay.
Answered my question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
My question is I'll call it idiot light for lack of a better term.
Yep.
But the sensor that tells you when your oil is 50% or 100% or whatever.
Yep.
Well, how much faith do you hold? And is it really an accurate? Is it basing it on mileage, or
is basing it on mileage?
So it's a timer.
Yeah, it's a timer, so to speak, but it's not basing it on if your car sits there and runs forever. But as far as it's basing it on mileage, basically. It's going off of what they say that you don't have to change. That you have to change your oil every 7,000, 8,000 miles, is what they're telling you on that light. And basically, what happens is when it gets to about, I would say 60%. That's when I start changing.
Oh, you do?
Yep. I change it probably about
You're not even watching how many miles.
No. And once in a while I forget to reset it, and then then the next 3,000 miles it says change your oil. Basically is what it's telling me. But I usually change it about 60,000 miles. I change my oil. And I'm using synthetic oil.
60?
Or 60%, I mean.
Oh,
excuse me. 60% of the gauge reading.
Because to me, that's just another panic mode. When they see that 0% left, oh, my God, I can't drive the car right now.
But did they check the oil that day?
Oh, God, no.
No.
You look at the gauges only.
Yeah, yeah. You're supposed to check it at least once a week or twice a week. You know, it all depends on how much you use the car.
Nobody does that anymore.
No one lifts the hood anymore.
No.
I check it every day on my cab.
All right. Thanks
Thank
a lot
you.
for your call. Good morning. You're on with Dick Zeitler.
Oh, good morning.
Good
Well, you can tell it's fall. It's radiator talk.
Yes, it is.
Actually, was one place yesterday, and they wanted to change my antifreeze, and they were telling me they use a universal, so it doesn't matter what came in the vehicle originally.
Right.
Is that okay?
Global, what they used to use. I mean, that was the word. That was the term, global. And I really don't care for that idea, but that's a cheaper way to go. You don't know what they putting them in, what they putting in there. I'd rather have the name brand stuff myself.
So you would still stick with the name brand original antifreeze that came in the vehicle?
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Okay.
Because if you're the one paying for the bills, you're the one that wants that car to last and be.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
It's going to get expensive, in other words.
It's going to get a little bit more money for that antifreeze, but if you choose that person to do it, he's probably going to,
right,
really charge you for the main brand.
Right. Now, if GM has their own antifreeze, do the other manufacturers have their own separate ones also?
Yeah, there's certain. It's a gauge, and you go to any parts store, and you can pull up. They should have a list on what goes inside of there.
Okay.
What goes inside of the certain cars you are driving.
Okay, so the antifreeze should be manufacturer specific at this point.
Yep.
Okay. That's great to know.
Yep.
Great, thanks.
Thanks
a lot for the call.
Bye.
We got time for one more caller. Good morning. You're on with AutoTech 101.
Yeah, Dick, synthetic oil versus regular oil.
Yep.
Is it how long do you go between changes for synthetic, and is it worthwhile to go synthetic?
They telling you right now just a regular standard oil, fossil oil, whatever. They say about 5,000 miles now. I really still stick at the 3,000 mile range because I seen it in my own cars that. When I got to about 4,000 miles or 3,500 miles, I had to add a quart. It starts to break down after 3,000 miles. And you will notice that. And if you want to take it to 5,000 miles on a fossil oil, you want to take it to 5,000 miles, go ahead. But keep an eye on your level. See if it starts to use after a certain amount of time.
Okay, but if I switch to synthetic?
But if you switch to synthetic, you may have a little problem of creating a little bit of a suds problem or sludge and stuff like that in your engine.
Yeah.
I would slowly go to a DuraBlend, try that, see how it works for you, and then if you want to go full synthetic, don't go on the old cast iron engines. That's the new engines, the new 4-cylinders and stuff like that. Only use the full synthetic on them, unless it specifies inside the your owner's manual that you can use that. But go on your specifications in your owner's manual what to use. But if you want to go a synthetic, you go to your DuraBlends, like I went to Valvoline on most of my vehicles, the DuraBlend Valvoline. But the only thing is you're paying about $8 to $10 a quart or $13, up to $13 a quart for that stuff.
What's DuraBlend again?
DuraBlend is a Valvoline. If you go in, it's in a blue bottle.
So it's half and half, right?
It's half and half. It's a mixture. And then we go down to refined oil, and they put the regular mix of their synthetic oil, and then they put the refined on top of that, so it's a 50-50. You got to watch that closely, because if you use that oil, watch the dipstick. See if you start to use oil after using that, if you want to put that in your car.
What do you use, Dick?
I'm using Valvoline, and I use fossil oil in a few of my cars, and I use straight. In my little HHR, I use Napa 5W30 synthetic oil. And I don't have any problems. And I got a 2012 van. I use the same stuff.
But no matter what, check the dipstick on a regular basis.
Yeah, check that dipstick on a regular basis. If you start to change brands of oil, check it.
Okay.
Or types of oil, check it.
Guys, we're out of time.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for the call. Yeah.
Thanks for the call.
50 degrees downtown. Dick Zeitler here, and I look forward to the next time. We'll do this again in the near future, Dick.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it is coming up on 11 o'clock here at KROC-AM.